Hi everyone, I'm Justisa and welcome to Dark History of Sweden. Today we are going to talk about another murderer, and when I read about this, I actually thought it had happened in America. He even got a nickname, and it is crazy. Today we will talk about the Slaughtering Mask Murderer. Before we start, I always put a disclaimer in the beginning of my videos, but I do want to do it again just to keep you guys safe. This video will contain talks of brutal murder and even an occasion an attack where someone's eyes are ripped out. So if you are not comfortable with these kinds of topics, you should not watch this video. Take care of each other and yourself. Martin Johansson was a farmer from Smedsbyn, Luleå, and might be one of the most dangerous men in Sweden. Frida Steinberg and Martin met in 2006. She was 13 years younger than him. Summer 2007, she got pregnant and gave birth to their first child. Martin had a son from a previous relationship. His family owned their own farm, which they worked at, and had several workers, who were all terrified of Martin, because he tended to act strangely and threateningly. They would avoid interacting with him if they could. According to his father, Englif, Martin had been sick for a really long time, mentally. They always knew. He did have a severe depression, and they tried to help him as much as they could, which could lead to his outbursts. He often got these, and his family was very caring and understanding, doing their best to make sure that he was okay. They thought that he didn't do this on purpose or with ill intent. Frida was expecting their second child when she was supposed to go out and look at the Christmas decorations with a friend when she and Martin had an argument. An argument that led to him pouring trash over her car and pushing down the roof of it with a tractor scoop. I don't know the English word for it, so I just translated it exactly from Swedish. Traktorsskopa. Yeah. She called her friend because she didn't dare leave the car. Her friend and her partner drove over there and got her out. Martin stood inside the house and watched them through a gap in the door. This led her to leave him. She was scared of him, both for her own sake, but also her children's sake. She started a child custody case and fought to have sole custody over their two children. Around 2 in the afternoon on the 26th of August 2009, she won the case, and she went to the farm to get her son. She was nervous about getting her son, so she and a friend who lived close by decided that she was gonna quickly go and pick him up and then go to her house. Frida arrived at the farm to pick up her 2-year-old son. Martin walked up to her, placed the slaughtering mask on her neck, and fired it off. She died instantly. If you don't know what a slaughtering mask is, I didn't before I read this, so yes. It is a tool to euthanize sick or malformed animals. He walks back into the house with both children in his arms and tells his father that now he never has to leave them with her again. Enif, his father, quickly realizes that something is wrong. He looks out of the kitchen window and sees her lifeless body lying on the ground. He calls 112, the Swedish emergency number, and tells them what has happened. He then rushes out and sits with her until they arrive. In December 2009, the trial started, and Martin's family hired the lawyer Thomas Bodström, who argued for him not to be in prison, but to get the forensic psychiatric care instead, to make sure that this never happened again. Arguing that if he got the prison sentence, he would most likely get out and not get the help that he needed, But if he got the psychiatric care sentence instead, he would get the help he needed until he was deemed to be able to live a normal life. When telling his lawyer what had happened, Martin was very detailed, but also seemingly unemotional. In the end, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison for the murder of Frida Stenberg. But the Court of Appeal lowered it to 12 years with the reason that his sickness was treatable, but was unsure of when he would get better. Also, that Martin obviously suffers from a mental illness, but didn't at the time of the murder. Only after a few months at Kumla prison does the psychologist realize that they need to transfer Martin to the forensic clinic in Oblivion, Piteå. 8 years after the murder of Frida, 2017, the physicians executives decide that Martin is to be transferred to non-institutional care. And even though there were several red flags, he was to be moved home on the promise that he takes his medication. One of the medications he is to take is clozapine, which is used to treat schizophrenia. 26th of August 2017. Exactly 8 years after the murder, he moves back to the farm. Just 1 month in, he had trouble executing simple tasks, and by October, he was mostly just inside. In November 2017, his parents decided to contact the psychiatric ward to make him go back, because he was so irritable, depressed, and didn't really do anything. They took him in, but just a little while later, he was released again. They said that the electroconvulsive therapy treatment that he had undergone had given results. This is when Martin decides that he was healthy and didn't want to take clozapine anymore. Many say that both his sentence and the fact that he stopped taking his medications were obvious mistakes, especially now that they know the consequences. The forensic psychiatry knew that Martin didn't take his medication anymore, but his parents didn't find out until much later. March 2020, Elif got a call from his wife saying that he has to come back home from his work trip because Martin had gotten much worse. And this is when he became much more dangerous and aggressive. It was around 10 at night on the 29th of July 2022. Elif had just taken care of the calves and was heading into the milk room in the barn when he heard his dog Olga barking and yelling. He meets Martin and asks what was the problem with Olga. Is she okay? Coldly, Martin responded with, "I kicked her and locked her in the car." Elif thought that he should have understood that something was amiss, but in Martin's aggressive and manic behavior, he did these types of things. So he walked back into the milk room, but Martin followed him. In recordings of the interrogation, Martin says, when asked why he followed his father, that he was angry with him and wanted to hurt him. When the interrogator asks why he was mad or what was going on in his head, Martin only says that he doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't feel like it. Just as he entered the room, he was doused with boiling hot water. His son, Martin, had grabbed the water hose and drenched his entire back. He turned around and saw that it was Martin. To get away from him, he ran off to a small and narrow room in the back, knowing that the hose wouldn't reach that far. Martin ran after him and quickly caught up to him, threw himself over him so that both of them fell to the ground. It was then Elif realized that Martin was trying to kill him. They started fighting, but Martin was on top of him, much bigger and stronger than his father. Elif understood rather quickly that he wouldn't win this fight, so he decided to pretend that he was dead. He stopped fighting and slouched down. Martin got up and left. Caught up in the fight, high adrenaline and panic made him not feel any pain, but he could feel Martin's fingers in his eyes and mouth. He didn't understand that his eyes had been removed until he was at the hospital. When Martin retells it, he describes it as digging his eyes out, and that it wasn't difficult to rip them out. According to Martin himself, he is quite a large man who has worked at a farm his entire life, so he didn't have to use much force. Eilif knew that no one would be out there until later the next day, and it would be a shame if he died now after having survived the attack. So he crawled out to his car that he had parked outside the barn. He couldn't see anything, but he followed the sound of his beloved dog Olga's barking. Thanks to that, he could crawl through the barn and get to the car safely. Charged with severe assault, attacking his own father. Martin was scared of getting psychiatric care sentence because he knew that most likely he wouldn't get out this time. But this time, everyone agreed that that was the sentence that he needed. His lawyer, Thomas Bodström, said that this is exactly what should have happened from the beginning. This is exactly what they were afraid would happen if he got the prison sentence. If he had gotten the psychiatric care sentence from the beginning, they could have made sure that he was released during periods of time. They could have a better surveillance over him, given him warnings, making sure that this never would have happened. Today, he's at the forensic psychiatric facility outside of Piteå. And as it stands right now, he will be there for the rest of his life. His father, Eilif, is now blind and lives on the farm still. In a documentary, he says that everything that he once enjoyed, nature, animals, and his work, has now been ruined. But he tries to stay positive and live as best as he can. Frida's friends and family still mourn and miss her. I don't know what has become of their children and Martin's oldest son, but I also think that is for the best for them to live out of this horrible shadow. That was all I had on the slaughtering mass murderer, the most dangerous man in Sweden. This was so horrible and sad, and it says a lot about the lacking in Swedish mental health care, especially for those who desperately need it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss a video. Take care of yourself and each other, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Traktorsskopa. Did y'all hear that? That was my neighbor. He walks. Can you people stop talking, please? Distracting me. In November 2017, he parents. Okay, he parents. Walked her in the door. I did it again.